I'm Kenyatta Dean Bacon. I'm a special education teacher at Newburgh Middle School.
The BSK elections that were held recently had a lot of anomalies about it. And, you know, when we look at how elections are being done electronically and the people that are in power are the ones that ultimately control all the gears and levers around tabulation of votes, it's kind of concerning. The members have asked for paper ballots and they were told that they can't have that this election cycle. So we have to trust an electronic vote tabulation system. And so there needs to be more transparency.
Would you mind giving me the rundown on how we ended up with those two BSK results from leadership's words? Kenyatta can speak to that better.
The two results, what do you mean?
Like originally it was reported that Rashad had won the popular vote, and then they somehow recounted electronic ballots to have Kenyatta the winner. I'm just confused, and I'd like to hear from Kenyatta or you or somebody that knows the official stance was on that. How does that even happen? I'm confused.
Kenyatta or Yvonne, would you like to weigh in?
It's kind of hard to explain because I don't necessarily believe that an apostrophe E in someone's name could totally throw off the numbers the way that they did. But basically that was the rendition that they were told to us, that once one of the write-ins had an apostrophe E in their name and it threw off the tabulation. But there is a full page-and-a-half write-up by Brent in the December 16th action that went over line by line every explanation that we had ever been given as far as why the numbers were messed up and the rationale for the needing of a runoff at this point.
The thing that I noticed was that the tally sheet had so many things that just, how did you do that? And where did this come from? And why are there these green arrows, you know, the little green things that show
flags?
So that's what prompted all the questions in the first place. And instead of answering the questions, they came back and said, oops, we found an error. And Brent had even said there's no possible way there could be an error.
He did say that.
And they found one. So it was a comedy of errors, literally. And I think that's why members went for a paper ballot in the first place, is there needs to be a way to have a recount, and there was no way to do a recount. All they could do was go back and look at the programming and the coding, and they were like, oh, look at this, we did find a boo-boo. Now we have a different winner. And they weren't forthcoming about the fact that
there was going to be a runoff.
Right.
Because originally there wasn't going to be.
Right.
And at first they said, well, okay, there's way more votes than there are by school, because people who aren't assigned to schools don't get put in there. Okay, fine, whatever. And then they said that Kenyatta had lost by 5 votes. And then they said, well, actually, because we started saying, wait, what about this? What about this? And none of these totals ever match each other. They finally say, okay, they came up with a whole new set of totals and said, as Gay alluded, that an African-American young man who had an accent on the E in his name was the reason, a punctuation mark was the reason this had all gone to hell. Now, we've had hyphens, no hell. We've had periods for juniors and seniors, again, no hell. But all of a sudden, punctuation hell. I mean, and every step of the way, it was like that.
I don't know if you can see my screen. I can explain what you're looking at if you like. In the left-hand column was a reenactment, if you will, of the spreadsheet screenshot. By the way, if they'd have given us the real spreadsheet, we could have figured out what those little green flags were. But what they sent us was what they sent the candidates was a screenshot of the Excel page that had the tallies on it. And in the left-hand column, you can see what it looks like. It showed Kenyatta having 120 and Natalie having 125. So Natalie winning by 5 votes. Lydia, who was the incumbent, had the least number of votes of the 4 candidates. And Sarah Butrin had 113. And then there were 56 abstentions, which we thought was strange because this was the only reason teachers would have gone to this link, was to vote in this election. So if they took the time to seek it out and find the link and go to the page only to not vote, either something wasn't being
There was
counted,
no other election on the ballot. It was just this.
and it was not an easy ballot to find. So if you were seeking it out, you should have gone there for a reason. And so that's why 56 abstentions out of 500 votes, 10% of the people went there and didn't pick a single button and then left, or chose abstain. I don't know if you can choose abstain or if you just leave and it counts. But that's what it tallied, was 56. So that was one of the questions that they were asking, is how did that many people abstain? Second question they were asking is, who's that guy at the top there with a one vote but no name? Then there were, Yvonne managed to get 3 write-ins. Just for everybody's information, BSK has 12 members. 10 are nominated by Brent and then voted on by the committee that he nominated. So he doesn't quote unquote appoint them. So when we say he appoints them, we get corrected. He nominates them, and then the people who he previously nominated bless his list, basically. And so there are 10 that are put there that way. And then there are 2 at-large positions every other year. And so what Kenyatta was running for was the at-large position that happened to be coming open this year. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second too. But Peter Miller somehow got 33 write-in votes, which we thought was really bizarre because nobody had heard him campaigning. So we started questioning the programming. And then, by the way, down this column, every one of these boxes had a little green triangle in the corner, which means there's an error in the formula or something. And I'd like to point out that when you normally create an Excel file, you sort it by something. And it does appear that it was sorted. If you look to the right-hand column, the sort order actually matches the end results, as if Kenyatta, other than this weird one at the top, Kenyatta had 135, Natalie had 132. So the sort order didn't even change. This is what they gave us both times, only Deontay was added and the sort order didn't change. So it makes you think that someone might have manipulated the numbers after they created this sort orders. But this second column does give what they came back with. And so now there's a new total, 518 instead of 550. Deontay Mucker was the name with the apostrophe over the E that caused everything to supposedly be out of whack. But all the ones stayed the same, 1s and 3s stayed the same. Only the main candidates were affected by this errant E, wacky character, as Brent called it. So just lots of things to cause question. And as I mentioned, this is the leadership that's currently in power is the one pulling all the levers. And that's, as a taxpayer, that concerns me.